whether or not Dak is the issue in Dallas. So as you guys know, yesterday the Cowboys lost at home to the Saints by a score of 44-19, which broke Dallas's 16-game home winning streak. New Orleans has scored, I believe, 96 points in its first two games, which is the most points it scored in its first two games since the 09 season, which is when they won the Super Bowl. So now a lot of questions are coming into play about whether or not there's issues in Dallas and whether those issues are Dak Prescott. I tell you, the quarterback position is the hardest position to play because it doesn't matter if your team loses by 50 or loses by 2. You're going to be the question. You're going to be the issue. You're going to get a lot of the criticism. And I say that because watching the game yesterday, did Dak Prescott make mistakes? Yes, obviously he had an interception. He had 2 interceptions. If I'm wrong about that, one of you guys can correct me. And he lost a fumble in the red zone. I understand that. I completely understand that. And looking at the film, it doesn't look good. And those are mistakes that Dak Prescott should not be making at this stage in his career. However, New Orleans jumped out to a very early lead on explosive plays. And it looked like busted coverage on the defensive end and lack of effort and tackling from Dallas. So, were there a multitude of issues for Dallas yesterday? Absolutely. But also, I do want to say this. New Orleans looks very good. New Orleans looks like a great team. A team that many people didn't expect to even win its division. A lot of people expected Tampa Bay, who also looks very good as well, with their win against Detroit yesterday. Once again, the team of Detroit, who many of us expect to be the best team in the NFC. Tampa Bay and New Orleans look very good in the NFC South right now. We got to start questioning whether New Orleans is perhaps a top 3 team in the NFC. Maybe the best team in the NFC. That's another discussion for another show we'll have in the coming weeks, I'd imagine. And I say that to say, this New Orleans team is much better than people have given credit for. And I say that because Dallas ran up against this great team in New Orleans. And, this wasn't the Commanders that Dallas lost to. This wasn't the Giants that the Cowboys lost to. And this was a legitimate team, a legitimate top 3 team in the NFC who was firing all cylinders. I mean, Alvin Kamara had 20 carries for 115 yards and 3 touchdowns. To go along with 2 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown. Jamal Williams had 8 carries for 39 yards. I mean, Chris Olave had 81 yards receiving. Rashid Shaheed had 96 yards receiving. I mean, listen, this is a great team. Great team, especially offensively, New Orleans. Dallas ran into a great team in New Orleans, and they did not play well defensively. Like I said, they gave a lot of big plays. They gave up 190 yards rushing. You're not going to win a game in the NFL giving up that many yards rushing. And we talked about before, the interior, that front 7 in Dallas does not do a great job of generating pressure like they did before, which puts a lot of pressure on the secondary, a secondary that does not look as good as they once did before in Dallas. So the defense is, I believe, is what the biggest issue was for Dallas yesterday. However, because a lot of people aren't sold on Dak Prescott and don't believe Dak Prescott should have gotten paid, they're going to start looking for reasons for why Dak Prescott should no longer be in Dallas and should not have gotten paid. And so they're going to look for this reason. They're going to use this as a reason and say, oh, well, look at this. Dallas lost by 30 almost to New Orleans. There's no way Dak should be the starting quarterback or should not be the guy. But Dak wasn't the issue. Dak was not the reason that Dallas lost. Poor defense was the reason that Dallas lost yesterday. Now, Dak didn't help with his play. I will give you that. But he was not the main reason that they lost. And once again, the question I always like to ask people is, if Dak's not the guy in Dallas, then what is your alternative? Who are you going to get? Because it's not coming from the draft. So it's going to have to be someone currently playing in the NFL. So if Dak's not your guy, who is your guy? Who can come into Dallas and make Dallas better than what they are now? And if there's no one that can do that, then you go all in. From my perspective, you commit to Dak. Because it's like I said in the last segment, it is so difficult to get the quarterback position right. It is so hard. Teams lose almost 2 decades of success based on one bad decision at the quarterback. And here you've got a guy that has consistently gotten Dallas into the playoffs. Do they win the playoffs? That's a whole different discussion. Consistently gotten Dallas into the playoffs and has led Dallas to multiple winning seasons since he's been the starting quarterback. So if Dak isn't your guy, please tell me who is. Who can Dallas get to supplement or even transcend what Dak has done? I don't think there is. I don't believe there is a guy that can do that. So you commit to Dak. Listen, Dak is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. No question about it. But also, like I said in the first segment, what's starting to happen is the same way Michael Jordan kept a lot of all-time greats, Reggie Miller, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing. He kept a lot of great players from receiving or winning championships, Michael Jordan did. We're going to look back 20 years from now, and we're going to say, wow, this guy didn't get a ring. This guy didn't get a ring. This guy didn't get a ring. This guy didn't even make it to a Super Bowl. What happened? We're going to say, oh, wow, well, no, they just ran into Patrick Mahomes. That's the impact Patrick Mahomes is starting to have on NFL. And we just got to be cognizant of that. We have to be aware of that when evaluating these players. But Dak was not the issue that Dallas lost to New Orleans yesterday. It was that very bad defense. If you're Jerry Jones, do you start questioning Mike McCarthy again? Now, Jerry Jones would never make a decision to fire a quarterback during the season. He would never do that. But I do believe Mike McCarthy could be on the hot seat. Seems like doesn't matter what's going on in Dallas. Someone's always on the hot seat, though. But Dak was not the issue for Dallas's loss. I just want to reiterate that. Dak was not the issue for Dallas's loss. But his level of play, or the way he played, did not help. But, a lot of the big media sites are going to try and say that, Dak is the issue and it's their cause for concern and should they, what's going on. Listen, New Orleans is just a great team, and Dallas's defense is not as good as we thought they were, and actually they might be a little worse, maybe worse than what we thought they were. But listen, Dak is not the issue though, and Dak is not the issue in Dallas at all. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Is there cause for concern for Dak Prescott in Dallas? And if there is, I just want to know. I genuinely want to know, what's the alternative to Dak Prescott? And what I find is that I ask people that, and they can't give me a legitimate, real answer. And what because then what you really start to get down to is, okay, if there is no alternative to Dak Prescott in the NFL, you have to go into the draft. But if you're going into the draft, you might as well just rebuild entirely, which means you got to completely blow up this team. And then you start questioning, okay, well, was the championship window closed? Was the championship window ever really open? I believe Dallas had a legitimate chance of winning a Super Bowl 2 years ago when they lost to San Francisco. Last year, I don't believe they did. They had a legitimate chance. And this year, I believe their chances are about the same as it was last year. So if you're okay with making the playoffs but not making it to the Super Bowl, that's fine. But what you see is that if you're not okay with that and you want to rebuild, you better get it right. You better get that quarterback position right, because a lot of teams, look at Washington, for example, look at New York, for example, just within your own division, they don't get it right and they're stuck below mediocrity for an extended period of time. So you gotta figure out what you really want in life when you make these decisions. Same thing in the NFL, same thing with football. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. But with that being said, guys, that's it for our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a wonderful show. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay updated on all related content that I post daily. None of this is possible without you guys as fans, and Dre and I are just so grateful and honored for all the love and support that you guys show us. And if you like exclusive content, be sure to follow us on Patreon. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, and typing in Sorry to Bother You Show. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content. We'll be back again, guys, tomorrow with our college football show. Continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and until next time, guys, peace.